Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started, and we're going to begin by setting up AutoCAD so that the user interface and the mouse works the way that we want it to. Whenever you begin a new session of AutoCAD, the first window that you will see is this splash screen right here. Not a whole lot to do on the screen other than just to get a drawing started. To do so, simply click on the upper left-hand corner. There's this box that says Start a Drawing. You have template options, etc., but really all you need to do is click on this. Once you do that, it'll take you into the AutoCAD interface. There's a couple of things that we want to do to make this work the way we want it to. First of all, this box on the left-hand side is really an unnecessary box. We don't really use any of the items on here, so I simply just close it, and then it should not pop up again. Every time you change computers or use the machine for a first time, you will see this pop up, so you will have to close it, but then it will not pop up the next time you use that same machine again. Okay, for setup purposes, there's a couple of things you want to get done. First of all, I want to begin by setting up so that my menu bar shows up at the top of the screen, and we'll talk about what that menu is used for a little bit later on. But to do that, first of all, we're going to push on this little down arrow. Looks like an arrow with a bar above it. By clicking on that, you get this access bar. We want to go down to the second to last item where it says Show Menu Bar, and when you click on that, it puts this set of menus at the top. I like this menu bar for lots of reasons. Besides the fact that it's got all of the classic AutoCAD commands on it, it also is very easy to find what you're looking for. For instance, if you want to dimension something, you click on the dimension toolbar and it shows you all of the dimensioning items on there. Okay. On the ribbon, it would be the annotate toolbar, and some of these things aren't real clear what they do versus the dimension toolbar where it's, hey, I'm dimensioning a linear object, or I'm doing something aligned, or I'm dimensioning a radius. Very much more clearly defined on the menu bar than on the ribbon. So that's the first thing we want to take care of. The next thing we want to do is we want to dock this bar here at the bottom. By docking this, we'll be able to see both of our command lines, and being able to see the command lines is very important, especially when you first start with AutoCAD, to be able to read the questions that it's asking you for input. AutoCAD is a very powerful program, but it's constantly needing your input, and it will ask you questions constantly. And so we want to be able to see what those questions actually are. To dock that, you simply push on these little grip points on the left side and drag to the bottom of your screen. When you get to the point where it's ready to dock, you'll see it kind of disappear and highlight in gray there, and then let it go. You can see where it says now, command specify the opposite corner, fence polygon, all this stuff. That's the command that it will read, and then of course the input piece will be directly below that. So now that we have both of those done, I'm going to take the next step, which is to set up my object snap settings. Object snaps are a way for you to draw lines very precisely. I like to think of them as almost magnets, where I can take one line and have it magnetically touch a specific point on another line or an object such as a circle. To do that, I'm going to come down here to my lower right hand side of my toolbar, or my drawing window. On the lower right hand side, there's several icons here. The ones that are highlighted in blue indicate that they're on. If they're grayed out, such as this one right here, they are off. Most of these relate to your function keys, which are the F keys at the top of your keyboard. And the one that we're really concerned about right now is this one. It's your F3 key, known as the object snap settings. If you hit your F3 key on your keyboard, it turns that on and off. But the main thing I'm worried about are the snap settings themselves. If you push on the down arrow here, you'll get this listing. And under this listing tells you all of the different snaps that you have. Endpoint means that you're going to snap an object to the end of another object, or from one end of one line to the end of another one. Midpoint would be halfway between two lines, or the ends of two lines, halfway down the edge of a straight object such as a triangle or rectangle. But the real concern I have is setting up all of my settings. Some of them simply go all the way to the bottom of that and say object snap settings here. Normally speaking, depending on the application, if I'm talking just beginning mechanical drafting, I don't have any of the items on the right side checked, because a lot of these can almost get in your way at times. And on the left side, I check all the boxes except for the one that says extension. I find that extension can also sometimes get in your way. AutoCAD tries to assume what you're pointing to rather than you telling it what you want to point to, and therefore will pick sometimes places that are a little bit messier, out of shape. A parent intersection can be a real headache sometimes. So I normally have all of those turned off. On the right side, the one that I do turn on for architectural purposes would be the perpendicular box if I'm drawing architecture, because most walls in a home are at 90 degrees to each other, and this allows us to snap 90 degrees to another wall. Makes life a little more simple if I'm doing architecture. Otherwise, just the ones on the left except for the last one. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to set up my options, and my options are for my right-click customization. If you have enough time in AutoCAD, you'll find that you want to keep your right hand on the mouse as much as possible and your left hand on the keyboard as much as possible, and that means using your right mouse button as an enter key as often as possible. To do that, I'm going to go up to my user preferences, and under user preferences, I actually want to set up my right-click customization. Now, my version has already been set up, so this box has not been highlighted or it's been grayed out, but if you simply check this box here, you can see I can set my right-click customization. When I click on this box, what I want to change are my command menu to be repeat last command here, this one to be repeat last command, and then enter. Once I've checked those 3 items, I click apply and close. It takes me back to my user preferences here. I simply click apply and OK, and it takes me back to my object snap setting. My right mouse button will now work as my enter key, which is really important sometimes when I'm doing commands. If I'm drawing a line and I draw a line from A to B and then I hit my right mouse button, it'll stop drawing a line. And if I want to draw another line, I just simply hit my right mouse button again and it continues that same drawing of a line. If I'm drawing a circle, it'll draw another circle and so on. The other thing I want to set up is my dynamic input. I want to make sure that I see this little heads-up display. The heads-up display basically shows you what it is that you're putting in for measurements and angles when you're typing. So that's a really important thing that I want to have that checked. Notice that it's these 2 boxes are checked here where it says enable pointer input, which actually gives me the input for the pointer as far as where it's located. And it also, I want to have the enable dimension input where possible. So if I want to draw a line to a specific length or rectangular to a specific size, it'll actually let me type those measurements in there. Once I've done that, I simply click OK, and it takes me back to my drawing window again, and I'm ready to start drawing. Now, for engineering architecture purposes, we set our units the same way. It doesn't matter if you're talking about metric units or if you're talking about fractional, decimal, or otherwise, we always do the same operation. Every drawing you start, you're going to begin by clicking on your Format menu. By clicking on the Format menu, you'll see that you get this list of all these items that you can format, including my units. Units being, what is it measured in? Is it measured in feet, miles? Is it measured in millimeters? Is it measured in centimeters, and so on? By clicking on that, I'm going to go to my units menu, and it'll pop up this box at me. My next step is to set the type of unit that I'm working with. Now, normally speaking, I'm going to work in one of these 3, architectural, decimal, or engineering. If it's a metric drawing, it's always going to be decimal, and it's assumed that those decimals are decimals of millimeters. Otherwise, I'm going to set for architectural or engineering units. Engineering units would be for mechanical drafting, for things that are measured out in decimal points of an inch. Or if it's architectural, obviously, I'm going to use that. And architectural will be in fractional form as well as in inches and feet. You'll notice that my precision is 1/16 of an inch. That is more than precise enough for architectural prints. I'm going to leave my insertion scale reference as inches just because it makes the most sense. And I really don't want to mess with some of these other features at this time, so I'm going to leave that as inches. Everything else can stay the same on the screen. I simply click OK. Once I've done that, I'm pretty much ready to begin my drawing. AutoCAD is set up. This process only has to be done one time as far as the setting up of the menus and setting up of the right-click customization and the object snap setting. The only thing you'll have to do every time you start a drawing in AutoCAD is go to Format and Units. Incidentally, if you choose to not use that method, there is another way to get to those units. You can push on the big letter A here in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, go down to Drawing Utilities, and set units there. Or if I'm really feeling particular about it, I could type in the word units and hit my enter key, and it brings up the same listing to be able to set my units there as well. So those are the basics for getting the drawing window set up the way we want it, our user preferences set up the way we want it so that we can draw with some power and some consistency. From here on out, we'll be doing drawings individually, and I'll be showing you step by step how to do those. This is general setup for all AutoCAD users.